Welcome to the Pathfinder Legacy Podcast, where we help farmers, ranchers, and business owners create a seamless transition plan for the future. From retirement to ownership transfer, we protect what you've built and guide you every step of the way.
Hello, all. Welcome back to the Pathfinder Legacy Podcast, where we talk farm and business succession without the fluff. I'm your host, Heidi Olson, where I'll guide you through tough conversations, the transition decisions, and everything in between. We're starting right where most families don't, at the beginning. All right, today we're going to start our conversation talking about the top 3 reasons founders fear or avoid farm succession planning. And to help dive into these fears, I have a guest joining me. He has seen these fears firsthand in his own planning with his parents. We'll discuss what went wrong and what was done to come up with a solution and move forward. Now, let me introduce you to Mr. Kirk Olson. Welcome, Kirk. Tell us more about you, your background, and your family.
Well, I was born in the area, and matter of fact, the doctor that delivered me delivered our own oldest daughter. So, been around. Grew up quarter mile from where we currently live. Grew up working on the farm we currently live on, doing everything from pitching hay to picking rocks. So, been here my whole life. Then went on to go to college, was when I first left, and was going to pursue accounting. It's one of those things where my father thought that would be a good fit. You could be a CPA and farm. Well, he didn't realize I didn't want to take care of other people's problems. So I went on my own and decided to become an ag teacher, and I taught for about 8 years until couldn't do both at the same time anymore. So then I just focused on farming, and people asked why, and I said, well, I got more invested in farming than I did in teaching. So that's where we ended up.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. All right. So our top conversation we're going to have today is why founders or owners fear talking about succession planning. What are the top 3 things why they avoid it? So the first one is control. So tell me a little bit about why you feel that founders or owners fear giving up control.
Well, from my experiences, what's happened is they were not allowed control when they took it over from their parents, and history has it repeating itself, we'll just say. And it was the same thing in our situation where Grandpa kind of held on to stuff, and then my dad took over, and then when we started moving in, Dad didn't want to give up control. He wanted to still make the decisions. He was afraid that if I'm not making decisions, I'm not really farming, and you're not really old enough. They still think of you as their little child, and you're not capable of making decisions. So you should ask me first before you do anything. And that's what I've seen with other people too in the area is that the dad will not give up control and wants to still make the decisions, doesn't want to do the work, just wants to make the decisions, wants to be the boss.
Okay. Yes. So what was one of the very first hurdles you came across when you came back to
The first one was, like I said, Dad thinking I was still his little boy. And I should ask him when I'm going to sell grain. I should ask him what I should plant on these fields. I should ask him where I should sell grain. I should ask him if I was looking at purchasing a vehicle or a piece of equipment. I should take it through him. I should bring him along and have him help negotiate. And those were some of the hurdles. And yeah, it took a while to get it across that I appreciate it, but I don't need help. You're actually undermining me and making me look weak by doing that.
How long did it take before you got over that hurdle with being able to do the marketing?
Longer than we both hoped it would. But yeah, it took a while because every family has their own dynamics. Some people parents and siblings or children can talk together, and it might be, screw you. And an hour later, they're like, okay, let's get back to work. Or it could be like some families where they hold a grudge for a month or 6 months and they don't even talk to you. And it's not even a wave meeting on the road. They're mad. They're upset. So both things happen. We'll just say that both things happen. So.
Okay. But you sense we've been able to get through those hurdles and move past that. We've been here for 22 years now and have had our highs and lows, but have gotten where we need to be to be able to move forward successfully and professionally.
It's all like anything. You have to start and get them, because these people, the parents and the grandparents, they're set in their ways, and they don't want to be told that they're doing something wrong or could be doing something different, because our way is the way it's done. So anyway, it takes a little bit of time, and it's just slow, steady steps. You just keep talking and to kind of prove it to them. And that's where you and I kind of had some issues where I was like, I got to prove it, because if you don't show them, they're not going to believe you. So.
That's right. Like, for an example of that, I remember many times I felt like a single parent going to many family events or things on my side of the family, or even just holiday activities that we wanted, whether it was the 4th of July or whatever the case was, going on our own, and me just taking the girls, because you had to stay home and either clean out bins or truck grain, or there was work that needed to be done, and you felt that you had to be here to do that. So looking back on the past 22 years, if you were to go back to talk to your 30-year-old self, what advice would you give?
Well, first off, it would be a conversation with mom and dad. What is the plan? How long are you planning? Because like my grandpa, I think he farmed till he was about 65 and then kind of turned things over. Well, when we moved back to the farm, Dad was about 65. So I knew he wasn't going to retire at 65. So you got to sit down and visit with them and find out what their plan is. Are you going to go till 70? Are you going to go till 75? Or are you going to go till the hearse shows up? What's it going to be? And get it down and make it sure that it's known that it's not a fluid mark. Well, it might be here, it might be there, because you can't plan on that. You can't make plans for yourself if other people aren't on the same wavelength as you.
Right.
And then, talk about that, and then find out about what's the goal. Are you looking at putting it in a trust and just keeping it in a trust, and then we rent it from a trust and we're on our own to secure our own land to go on, and we just rent it from the trust, and then the income is dispersed between the siblings? Or are we to buy it from the trust? Or are we to buy it from you? Are we going to do a contract for deed? Do you want to buy a parcel every 5 years? What do you have in mind? Stuff like that is the questions to ask. And what are your plans? Are you planning to stay on the farm forever? Or are you planning to move into town? You got to ask the questions. All you can get is the answer or none of your business.
Right.
But each one is an answer.
Yep. You won't know if you don't ask. And that's one of the things that we never thought to do. And looking back on it now, we would have probably had a whole list of questions to ask. And we probably would have still been...
we were of the type where we didn't want people asking our business, so we didn't feel we wanted to ask other people's business either.
Right.
But when the business concerns you, you got to ask.
That's right. Because you're a part in the business. You're part ownership. And at that point is you need to know what the future holds for you. Okay. So the next fear or reason why business owners, because again, this goes for, we're farming, we're running a business. So this isn't just for farmers and ranchers. This is business owners as well. So one of the other reasons why they don't want to talk about succession planning is for the fear of change. How many times did we hear this is the way we've always done it? I don't think it will work, or that's too risky. But for you and I, our philosophy was if you don't try, you won't know, or if you don't make a change, you won't grow. So, how else could we diversify the operation? You want to talk a little bit about that, Kirk, and, what, we felt we needed to give our input in for change to be able to show them this is
Yeah.
what we could really do to expand.
Yeah. Well, it was, a lot of it was where I picked up through college and after college working on other farms or going south on the harvest run for several years, which was something I always wanted to do. Just enjoyed the heck out of it and met a lot of great people and saw a lot of different farming techniques. And then I brought some of those techniques and things back to our farm that was told no, that wouldn't work, where everybody was running a rigid header on the combine. And I said, well, why aren't you I told Dad about a draper head. And he's like, no, those are too much maintenance. I said, not any more than anything else. So he got a draper head, and we haven't had anything but a draper head since. And then it was a semi. And then it's the unknown. Well, no, you need to have a CDL to drive a semi. No, you don't. Not on a farm. You just can't go over 150 miles. Oh, well, yeah, but this and that. Well, finally got him talked into a semi. We haven't used a straight truck since. And then it was getting a swing away auger and a grain cart and all this stuff that I saw on other farms that sped up the process, made it easier, made it more efficient, and made it more enjoyable so you weren't working so hard. And it made
Work
it way
smarter.
more enjoyable. Yeah, but it was that fear of change. Well, no, we don't do that. Nobody else is doing that. Nobody else went to the moon either. Right?
Right. For
so
sure.
Somebody's got to be the first. So
That's right. So, and if you're not going to be innovative yourself in your business, somebody else is going to beat you to the punch. And next thing you know, they're, one step ahead of you. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit here. So when we talk about fear of change, so go back to the story of when we first got married and that first summer. So for all of the newlywed wives out there, I'm going to have to tell you this story. There's the family dynamics of, okay, what time my family had supper and what time your family had supper. And your side of the family, it was always written in stone that 6:30 every night, supper, even if you were taking meals out to the field. So I worked Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I had a set time, come home, 45 minutes later, and I was expected to help have something prepared to take out to the field to do my part. So I remember riding in the vehicle and talking to your mom and getting to the field. And I asked her a question about preparing. I don't remember the exact question I asked her, but she said, I don't know. They didn't teach me that in witches school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, whoa, this kind of blew me back a little bit. But I remember telling her, I said, well, I guess I'll have to polish up my skills driving a stick, and maybe a broomstick, that is.
Yeah.
So I remember where we laughed about it, but she was testing me. I feel really your mom was testing me for fear of change, fear of how this new girl is going to handle life here and conforming.
It took us a while, but there's no more meals in the field.
That's right.
Took a
That's
while.
right. No more meals in the field. And we found out other ways to figure out a solution for that. But everybody still got fed and there was no 10:30 suppers, and so forth. But for both sides to see that you have to change, and change is not all bad.
No.
Okay. So the third avoidance is conflict. Conflict. A lot of times owners or founders, they don't want to discuss succession or future plans because they feel that they're going to be forced out sooner or altogether, and they fear it's going to have family tensions, that somebody's going to be upset and what's going on. So you want to talk a little bit about conflict avoidance and with us being able to farm and how that looked.
Yeah, well, it's all about, there are certain people that they challenge a conflict. They don't mind arguing with somebody or whatnot. Where then there's other people, I'm kind of that way where, if I don't have to argue with them, I'm not going to, and you just kind of kick the stone down the road, sort of say, and well, yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that. And like you and I always say, yeah, someday is not a day of the week. You got to just pull up your big boy pants and go talk to them.
Right.
And you
Right.
don't know. And like I said, you're either going to get a none of your business or you're going to get an answer. But both of them are an answer, and then you know where you stand.
That's
But
right.
it could be like sort of in our situation where they were dreading it just as much as we were. And once you opened it up, you kind of just felt the tension just dissolve because they were glad that we were thinking about it and that they weren't going to have to think they're going to pressure us into doing something, that we have a plan and we know what we're going to want to do and we're doing it.
Right. Right. So we got through that, and it was a fairly smooth conversation and
Yeah,
transition because we could
pretty
actually
smooth, yeah.
sit at the kitchen table and have that conversation. And now we're in that part where we've transitioned to the next step. So as your parents are stepping down, they're not necessarily stepping away. They're still here for help at any time that we might need them. But let's talk about when we flip the tables and the top 3 things us as that next generation or successors, if we could have asked the founders or owners something so we were better prepared and we could have had this conversation earlier. And one thing that comes to my mind is, how long are you planning to farm? You know, that conversation or that question didn't happen until your dad, we started having these conversations. And what did your dad tell us? He at least told us it was a clear number of how long he was going to farm. And that was when he was
80.
when he was 80. So he said, yep, I'm going to farm until we're 80. I'm 80. And then we'll work on the next part of how the transition.
It was more like 72, but yeah, he paid bills till 80. We'll just let him believe that. Yeah.
He won't be tuning into this, so we won't tell him.
He won't. No, he's not a podcaster, so I wouldn't worry about it.
We won't burst his bubble.
No.
But, we at least knew where we stood, and we could put a plan into place with our finances and land rents that we were paying and with our farming operation. So one of the other top questions that's always burning on our mind is, you just said, when can we purchase the farm? Are we talking about what's that going to look like? Is it the contract for deed, or if we have to go get a loan and buy everything outright? Most families aren't wanting to do that specifically unless they're really hard pressed for cash, but you're going to pay a lot in capital gains at that point. So spreading it out over a period of time is a better option, and that's really what is ideal.
It's beneficial for both sides. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we're not pushed so hard with trying to mortgage everything that we own to be able to do that. So you look at it and you don't want to have to get to the very end when you're purchasing it from the estate after they're gone. You really would want to have a plan. And that's what we've discussed many times with your parents, is having that plan and not being able to be able to purchase it up ahead of time and not waiting until it's too late or at the end of life. So, okay. The next item that we've talked a lot about is, what do you have for estate plan for your siblings? Do you want to talk a little bit about that part of the conversation?
Yeah. So I have 4 siblings and none of them farm. One helped out, but didn't farm actively. He had an off-farm job, but he would come out and run grain cart or maybe drive some truck or help fix something if something was broke and whatnot. It was that way. And the other 3 have no involvement in it, no desire to be anything in the farm. So, it's always the thing people talk about is fair isn't always equal. And yeah, I agree with that. I mean, yeah, they were here when they were younger, but I mean, outside of, mowing lawns, mowing grass and hoeing trees, where would you say you were actively helping on the farm? I don't know. And then you come down to the end of the line and everybody says that. I mean, even I've heard other people say it too, where they've said, no, it's all yours. I don't want nothing from it. It's you've been there and all this stuff. And that's when they're in their 30s. And then they get to their 40s and then the tune changes a little bit, and then they get into their 50s, and all of a sudden they go, I'm kind of looking for my retirement. But my retirement isn't what I thought my retirement was going to be. Now I'm looking for my inheritance. So, yeah, that's the thing. It's fair isn't always equal. They are deserved an inheritance from mom and dad. That is mom and dad's money. I guarantee it. I have no argue with that. But mom and dad should be allowed to enjoy their later years of life, travel, do things, and explore things that they didn't get a chance to do when they were working all the time and raising us. They are not just to sit at home, watch TV, and save their retirement to give to the kids. And then the kids know it's coming. So then I don't agree with that. No. I've told my mom will kid from time to time, we're in town spending your inheritance. And I'll tell her, spend it all. I don't want to die. And then her eyes just kind of perk up and she doesn't say another word.
Yep.
But that's the truth. I told her a long time ago, I said, all we want is the farm. And I said, we're buying it. I said, we're not going to get it for free. So That's what we did.
But on the same hand, you have all the sweat equity that has been put in all these years. So yes, you're paying for it, but you have the sweat equity, and you may have those off-farm siblings that come back at the holidays, or if someone has a specific event or something going on. But, there are other things that family member that they can receive. Parents can give them cash assets or something, rather than do something specifically with real estate or equipment or what have you.
Yeah. The worst thing you can do is divide the farm up.
Absolutely.
The whole thing is the farm stays together. You can't be given this kid this quarter, that kid that quarter, and this kid this quarter. And then I've seen it. There's been many, many, many farms around this area where that's what the parents did. They split the farm up. But the siblings did not get along that well. And next thing you know, somebody else is farming all that land.
Mm-hmm.
Because they said, I'm not renting it to him. No way am I renting it to him. And next thing you know, they were farming, say, 3,000 acres, and all of a sudden now they're down to 2,000 or 1,500 acres because depending on how much dad gave away and how many siblings there were, if there was 6-8 siblings and everybody got a quarter, it doesn't take long and 1,000 acres is gone.
That's right.
So.
Sure. Nope. We've seen it all too many times happen just in our local communities. And
don't be given land away thinking that that's the thing to do. You figure out a way to give something else away.
Mm-hmm.
Put up a life insurance on yourself to give to each kid or something. Don't split up the farm.
Right. Because all too many times they all have different ideas. They don't want to manage the farm. And then when it's time to sell it, of course, they're going to sell it, perhaps the first right of refusal to that farming child, but at also an elevated price because that's worth more as cash in their pocket. So, okay. So today we've debunked some myths, and one of them is if we talk about it, they'll think I want them gone. Actually, no, that's the opposite. Talking about it means we care, we want clarity, and to be a part of the plan, not just left in the dark. And that's really what we wanted to get across to our listeners today, is that how important it is to talk about it and communication, have a plan. As difficult as these conversations can be, if you sit back and wait, you're going to wait your whole entire life because either side is not wanting to make that next step. So just put one foot in front of the other and just do it. So any other words of wisdom today, Kirk, before we sign off?
Oh, that's a pretty deep subject. I got a lot of wisdom, but no words.
All right. At the end of the day, you're not just passing acres, you're passing trust. Thanks for joining us on the Pathfinder Legacy podcast. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at pathfinderlegacy.com. Until next time, I'll see you between the ditches.
Thanks for listening to the Pathfinder Legacy Podcast, where your future is our focus. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, and visit us at pathfinderlegacy.com to start building your transition plan today.